Today I'm filming a video on 10 things people with anxiety wish you knew. This is kind of like old school kind of video that I used to do, and I've kind of missed filming videos like this, so I'm just going to get straight into it. The first thing is some days we can do things and some days we can't. This is one that really seems to confuse people that don't have mental health problems and think like, people often say you could do that last week, or you've been uptown before, or you've been on holiday before and you were absolutely fine, what's the difference? There's blah 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 blah. If you can do it once, you can do it again. Some days we feel strong enough, we've had enough rest, we've had a good sleep, and we feel brave and we feel like we're able to do things, and when that happens, that's so good. But there are days when we feel like, I can't do this, I am in pain, we get physical pain quite a lot, or I am exhausted, or I feel so anxious, I can't do the scary thing today. That's something that just happens, that's just the way it is, and something that people with anxiety just need to deal with. Second thing is, we don't want to have anxiety. We've not made our anxiety up, it's not an excuse. Yes, we might have had the same upbringing as our siblings, we might have had a really good upbringing, our lives might be perfect from the outside, but we don't want to have anxiety. We want to be able to go to family parties, we want to be able to have full-time jobs, whatever it is that we are avoiding or we're not able to do, we want to be able to do those things. These things aren't excuses. I've had before, don't you just want to be able to, if you didn't have anxiety, don't you just want to be able to just do the normal things everyone else does? Of course I do. Obviously I do. But I make the best of a bad situation. What's the point in me being miserable constantly about the situation I'm in? I want to be happy with the situation I'm in, so I'm going to make the most of it. But it doesn't mean that I wish I could just get on a bus and do whatever I liked. But for me, I choose to be happy about the situation I'm in. We know that anxiety is a very commonly used word these days. I see all the time people being like, oh, I was so anxious about that, or oh, I'm anxious to start this, or whatever it is. Anxiety as a word these days is really overused. And so I think our generation are seen as really overly sensitive, and a lot of people don't understand. They think in my generation nobody had anxiety, or people that had anxiety just got on with it and they got better. One, I think anxiety is a way overused word these days, and it can be very offensive and annoying to people that have proper anxiety disorders. But two, there's a lot of things in our generation that makes people have anxiety and depression more. Whether that be social media, that be the news, whether that be the government, whether that be their situation in life. People are more isolated these days, people feel more lonely these days, they might have family history of mental illness, and also people are open more about it and people can talk more about it. But we know that anxiety is an overused word, and when we say it, we don't say it lightly, we mean it. We have clinical, whatever anxiety you want to call it, we know it's an overused word, but when we say it, we mean it. Another thing is, anxiety can completely stop your life. Anxiety, like I said, is used very all the time these days. It's just used in every sentence, it feels like sometimes. Severe anxiety can completely stop your life. It completely stop you leaving the house, it stops you making friendships, it makes you completely isolated, makes you feel extremely lonely, makes you unable to work. For a long time I had agoraphobia and I didn't leave the house. I couldn't go to college. I tried to go to college and I was there for 3 months, and every single time I'd get to the college I would just feel like I was going to be sick because I was just terrified. I'd try and go into the class, I'd try and sit outside the class. I just couldn't do it. I just physically couldn't do it. And panic attacks are something that just, you feel like you're going to die. They are absolutely horrific. I've heard people say before, oh well, at least you don't have depression, and depression's really debilitating. And I think depression, people understand and they know how severe it can be, and people know that when people are severely depressed it can lead to suicidal thoughts, and it's taken quite seriously a lot of the time, whereas anxiety is kind of like, yeah, but no one died from having anxiety. It's not taken as seriously, but anxiety is just as debilitating as depression and can be extremely hard to live with. Very, can take over your whole life. Another thing is, doing things for people with anxiety can take twice as much energy. For me, going to the shops can be like, right, I need a full-on pep talk to be able to get out of bed. I need to be able to relax on the sofa. Then all the what if thoughts come and I need to try and combat them. Then the actual physical movement of going to the shops everything takes twice as much energy. We can't just wake up in the morning and be like, oh, I need bread, I'm going to nip to the shop. It's a thing of, what if I go to the shop and then I have a panic attack and there's nobody around that can help me? What if I go to the shop and I bump into somebody I barely know and I have to make awkward small talk with them and I can't physically do that, they're going to think I'm so weird? What if I go to the shop and my car breaks down and my phone runs out of battery and I can't phone AA and I'm stranded? These thoughts happen constantly, all the time, and we're constantly in our mind, probably without even realising it, because it's just our minds, constantly battling, arguing, trying our best. And it's kind of like if you were somebody that had to go to a first day of work and you were so nervous about it and you felt physically sick about the thought of it, and you got to work and you did a whole 6, 7, 8 hours of work and then you came home, you would be absolutely exhausted. And for people with anxiety, every day can feel like that. Definitely I have some good days where I don't feel like that and I feel like I've got a fair amount of energy, I can do more than one thing in one day. But for a long time I couldn't do more than one thing a day. I couldn't even do something every 2 days. I really had to think about where I used my energy. And so sometimes you can be like, why are you tired from a day of doing nothing? The reason that person is tired from a day of doing nothing is because everything takes so much energy and things are so much harder. The next thing is ask me how I am. I think a lot of the time when I was going through a really hard time and I didn't know I had anxiety and I didn't know what that was, and so I couldn't explain to people what it was really, but people knew I wasn't well, people knew I couldn't leave the house, people knew that I had panic attacks, but they didn't really know what that meant. And I remember thinking, nobody asks me how I am. People are scared to ask me how I am, and I think it's because they're scared to insult somebody, and I think that's very valid, and the reasoning behind not asking somebody how they are is a valid reason, and I don't think it's malicious. But it's interesting that when somebody's ill with physical illnesses, whether that's flu or something more serious like a disease, and they're in hospital, whatever it is, people will ask you how you are. You get well soon cards, you get people coming to visit you. But when I was in that place where I was mentally very unwell, some people were really scared to ask me how I was because they were scared of insulting me. Please ask me how I am. Please always ask me how I am, because it shows you're on my side, you're one of my allies. It shows that you see what I'm suffering with as a real thing. And it's just really lovely. And also, don't get me wrong, there was some amazing people when I was going through a really hard time that would ask me how I was all the time, and they'd come to my doorstep because they knew that I couldn't leave the house and would sit and chat. And that's just one of the best things you can do for people that are really struggling, is ask them how they are. Don't be scared of offending them. Similarly, ask me how you can help me. There's actually a lot of things people can do to help somebody with anxiety. For example, for me, maybe chumming me places where if I wanted to go to a new shop I'd never been to before, and I was nervous about it, come with me. Or I might ask you, okay, can you come with me to get my nails done, but can you tell the technician if I have to leave that I have panic attacks? Or could you come and sit with me for a while because I don't feel like leaving the house today but I need some company? Whatever it is, there's so many things that you can actually do to help people with anxiety, but it's different for everybody. So ask me how you can help me, because there are things you could do, and I know sometimes you can feel quite helpless when you love somebody that has mental illness, because you feel like, I can't do anything to help this person, and this person doesn't know how to help themselves, and how can I help this person? Just ask. It's never going to be offensive, and there's always things you can do to help. The next thing is, sometimes people with anxiety find it really hard to text people back or call people back or meet up with people. They might cancel on you a lot, they might just completely blank you, not text you back, and I know that can be really hard for people, and I understand that. I totally understand that. You feel like you're just completely ignoring me. Why can't you just text me back? It's going to take you 2 minutes. But summing up, I go into this zone sometimes where I'm like, I want everybody out of my space. I need completely my own space. I don't want to think about other people. I just want to be on my own, completely zoned out. And sometimes that's necessary to kind of, when the world is overwhelming, shutting the world out completely and just being with yourself and doing the little things that make you feel better, like colouring, watching TV, doing some crafting, writing lists, whatever it is that makes you feel better. Sometimes we need to do that, and sometimes that means shutting everybody out. And that doesn't mean that I don't love those people, because everybody that's in my life I absolutely love and adore, but sometimes I don't want to talk to them. And it's nothing personal. The next thing is think before you speak. There have been loads of comments people have made to me throughout the years that have been really offensive or that have been really hurtful, and they've not meant to hurt me at all. And now I can look back on those moments and be like, that person just didn't understand, and they just were trying their best and probably were trying to give me advice or probably were trying to help me, but they just didn't get it and they got it wrong, and that wasn't a good thing for them to say. I personally don't take offence to these things anymore because I know people try. People really do try. But at the time, I was angry at the world, and I just felt like everything somebody said, every time somebody said something that was slightly offensive, I was like, you're an idiot. But I think, just think before you speak, because I think sometimes you can say things and not realise at all. Like somebody once said to me, I don't know how you do it, you're so brave. I don't know how you do it. If it was me, I would have given up a long time ago. And that comment in itself, what that person was trying to say is, I think you're really brave and I think you're really strong. But for me, it felt like, oh, they would have given up a long time ago. That means they think my life is awful. That means they, maybe I should give up. Maybe this is just like a waste of a life. It's hard because sometimes people with anxiety can be more sensitive, and sometimes they might take things out on you, and sometimes it feels like I can't say anything to this person without them snapping at me. But just sometimes give them a break, and sometimes let them off the hook with certain things and think before you speak. Also, obviously people with anxiety are people, and you can say, no, you've really offended me with that, or you can say, I think you're being a bit too sensitive about this, I think that's your anxiety, whatever it is. Obviously you can have conversations with people with anxiety and say, you've hurt my feelings too, but sometimes just giving them a bit of a break and thinking before you speak can be really useful when they're in a really difficult space. The next thing is, I am glad your friend that did yoga and drank herbal tea got better from that, and I'm glad that that type of therapy worked for that person, and I'm glad that when you were 16 and you had anxiety for like 3 months, you managed to just get over it. That's great. But for me, it's not like that. I've had anxiety for about 12 years, and I have a built up belief system, and the muscle in my brain doesn't work as well because I have built these beliefs for so many years that they're kind of ingrained, and so it's going to take a really long time for me to unravel that, and that is a process I've started doing. Constantly going on about the fact that you cured your anxiety in 2 months isn't going to make me feel better. It's going to make me feel like I am a failure, and it's probably going to make me kind of angry at you for belittling what I'm going through. Again, I know people with anxiety can be a bit more sensitive, so maybe again watch what you say around people, but also I don't understand what you're maybe going to get out of saying how much yoga helped that person or whatever. I think obviously giving advice to people with anxiety is great when they ask for it, but I think when you have a disorder like anxiety or depression, people feel the need to constantly give you their opinion. And I've experienced this a lot with family members and friends along the years of, that's how I would do it, you're not doing it right, this is how you recover, or what, this is how you recover, when actually it's such an individual experience. And the way I have started recovery, for other people it doesn't work, and for other people that's not how they want to do it, because we all have anxiety for different reasons, so we need to unravel the anxiety in different ways. I think definitely caring for people, and I think that's the intention of people when they do stuff like that, is trying to care for that person. But unless your opinion is being asked, unless somebody's asking for your advice specifically, I would stay away from things like I cured my anxiety in 2 months, because I think that's just not helpful. And that is just 10 of the things people with anxiety wish you knew. It's quite a difficult topic for me to talk about because obviously everyone with anxiety is so different, but also I think there's this massive stigma coming up just recently, a new stigma for our mental health, where people are seen as snowflakes, or that people are seen as being just extra sensitive rather than having an actual mental health illness. I have had anxiety for a very long time, and it's been very severe, and it is still quite debilitating sometimes, but I can take criticism about it, and I can take people getting it wrong sometimes, and I can take people not understanding it, and I see it as just them being ignorant about it, or them just being not completely understanding it, but I know people can take it. But I remember being at a time where anything anybody said to me about anxiety, I was like, you're an idiot. go away, leave me alone. So I think just being aware of what stage people are at in their anxiety is really, really important, because I've definitely went through an angry phase with my anxiety and I'm coming out the other side. But yeah, just generally thinking before you speak and being a good person and being a good friend to your friend is the best you can do. So thank you very much for watching this video, and I will see you soon. Bye!